Well, it's a lovely Sunday afternoon here in Tennessee. The summer heat is starting to kick in, so joy. Um, Even though still in school, kicking off the summer movie season with our what is becoming our traditional Marvel release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and uh, honestly, I think this is probably going to be a pretty short review. I say that, watch it still go 20 minutes. Because, I mean, really, this movie is everything you pretty much think it's going to be, and I mean that in the best possible way. I mean, it's a freaking Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and it's weird that even though there's only been 2 of these, just saying that, I feel if you said that to somebody, they'd kind of know exactly what you're talking about. You're going to see gorgeous visuals, which, man, this thing's got in spades. I love the imagination and just the colors. Oh, man, when I think of a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the thing I think of are the colors. You know, there are just so many bright and awesome colors, and I think because they're not bound by kind of having to be everything earthly and realistic, or trying to make it seem like it can work in a practical world. They can go all out with a lot of the colors, the backgrounds and the designs of the planets and the aliens themselves. I mean, there's a lot of just gorgeous stuff to look at. Kind of one of those movies that honestly you could watch with the sound off and just kind of go, wow, that is just freaking awesome to look at. That's my big thing about a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think of the colors. So pretty awesome. But yeah, it's everything you think of in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Some really great action, a lot of fun, and it's just fun. It is the definition of a popcorn movie. It's just a great film to go and watch and have a good time, and not really flip out about much. All the great characters from the original are back. A couple new ones, but like everybody that you kind of fell in love with doing their thing. What I liked about this one is that Chris Pratt, who I like, though I do feel like in a lot of his movies he's just basically doing the Star-Lord character just in a different movie. But what I like about this one is that even though the story very much centers on him learning about his father, that big kind of cliffhanger they left us on in the last one, his stuff is kind of subdued a lot. He's not in a great deal of it, and instead we get a little bit more time with some of the other Guardians. You get a little bit more time with Rocket. You get a little bit more time with Drax, and I gotta give some hats off to Dave Bautista, who in the first one had a kind of a breakout role as that that wrestler who says funny things and does it with that kind of deadpan expression. He does that great, but they give him some pretty interesting dialogue this time that's a little bit more serious. I mean, he's still doing it very straight-faced, so it's still kind of funny in that weird way. I don't know how to describe it, but he does a pretty good acting job this time. I mean, there's some pretty heartfelt moments for him, and it's just like okay, Bautista's got some acting chops. That's kind of interesting. You wouldn't have thought that, but yeah, you get to spend a little bit more time with him. You spend a little bit more time with Yondu, and they explain a little bit more about the Reavers and how they work. One thing I will say is that the guest stars, and there are guest stars in this movie. I mean, this movie. Okay, let's say this before I talk about that. This movie is the 80s. And I say that in the best possible way. I remember thinking with the first one, I think a lot of people agreed, one of the things that really established its identity was the soundtrack. And every movie since has been trying to copy it. That was one of my big problems with Suicide Squad. Is that everyone's trying to copy their love of the soundtrack. But the thing that kind of hit me as I was watching this one is it's not just the 80s soundtrack, it's the 80s aesthetic and the feel of the 80s. This movie feels like an 80s movie, you know, or an 80s TV show. You know, the guest stars that they have, and they have, like I say, they've got guest stars. You know, not just the soundtrack, the look of it, the feel of it, the feel of a big, we're gonna have a shit ton of fun, and because it's the frickin' 80s and we don't care, you know. And that attitude is just, it's soaking all throughout this movie and all through the first one. And so this one has some guest stars. I'm not going to spoil one of them, but you know, it's right there in the credits for this one. You know, Sylvester Stallone has a cameo in this, but I'm like, you know, you learn not to question this too much with the Marvel films because you know it's going to be answered maybe 4 or 5 movies down the line. But it's like they gave Sylvester Stallone such a small part in this, and it's like, why would you pay Sylvester Stallone money for, you know, a cameo? The same thing I brought out with Criminal and Ryan Reynolds and a couple other films I've asked this question. So you never know. Maybe he's going to pop up in one of the other films like Avengers, Infinity War, or something, or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or whatever. But yeah, that kind of struck me as weird. So Kurt Russell is in this, and I love Kurt Russell. I've gone on record as saying I think Kurt Russell is the manliest man who ever manned. And he's great in it. Though it feels like his character, which I'm not going to say his name because it does kind of spoil things. Even if you see the trailer, you kind of know, but you don't know. So I don't want to spoil too much. It feels like his character isn't given a lot of actual lines. It's all exposition dump. You know, it feels like, you know, you got Kurt Russell. I would have liked him to see him Kurt Russell a little bit more. And he didn't have his man stash. I was very disappointed. He had a beard and all that, but I mean, the thing about Kurt Russell is he's got the freaking man stash. You know, he's got the bushiest man stash since Sam Elliott. But he didn't have his man stash in this one, so that made me a little sad. Anyway, I like that you got a little bit more time with Rocket in this one because he was funny. He and Yondu kind of form like a buddy cop team almost, and they're a lot of fun to watch. Again, very 80s. I want to say that the whole Baby Groot thing was awesome, and it was cute. But the thing about Baby Groot is that if you've seen the commercials or the trailers, you've kind of seen every cool thing they had Baby Groot do. There's one thing right at the beginning that he does, which is awesome, and the rest is like, we've seen it. So I was a little disappointed in that, you know, because I was hoping for a little bit more Baby Groot, you know, but it turns out what they showed us in trailers was kind of it. So and I find that's a problem with some of the Marvel movies in terms of their advertising. A lot of times they show too much of the movie in the advertising, or too many of the high points. So I wish they'd kind of back off of that a little bit. But yeah, their stuff was really good. I was really glad to see Karen Gillan or Gillan, I don't know, yeah, whichever one, Amy Pond from Doctor Who. I was glad to see her back as Nebula, and they did some fun stuff with Nebula and Zoe Saldana there. So they got to expand on their characters some more, which was really, really nice. So the only real complaint I can have about this movie, and it's a minor complaint, I don't even know if it's necessarily a complaint, it's just something that didn't necessarily work for me, is that I felt like the plot, the storyline of this one, wasn't as fluid as the first one. And that's easy to say because the first one, I mean, it had because it was what it was, a space opera, you know, it had a very easy to follow and very kind of, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. This movie didn't do that. It, at least for me, it felt like the plot had long stretches of one thing, and then there was this other thing over here, and then there was this other thing over there, and finally it all coalesced into the plot at the end. But for a long time there, it felt like we were just kind of off on all these different tangents. But I said earlier that it seemed like Chris Pratt took a little bit of, and I don't think this is a bad thing, he took a little bit of a back seat to let the other Guardians have more screen time, and I think that's awesome. But the thing is that his plot kind of disappears for a while, and then when it comes back, he and Gamora are having this big fight about it, and you're like, wait, when was this a thing? This just all feels like it came out of nowhere. So I would have liked it maybe if they could have streamlined the story a little bit more. I don't think it was hard to follow. I'm saying it was kind of, no pun intended, it was kind of nebulous. It was kind of just, like I say, it felt more like a series of things that happened. I think maybe that's why I get more of the feeling of an 80s TV show in this one versus an 80s movie from the first one. Is that, kind of like an 80s TV show, it's a lot of stuff that just kind of happens. And then maybe it coalesces and has a follow-through all the way through if you're lucky, but not necessarily. That's not a knock against it. It's just I don't know if the story was as strong. But they did a lot of good stuff. They did a lot of things right. They got a lot of characters right that are very difficult to get right. And it's another one, kind of like Logan, where you're going along, having kind of this fun space opera film, roller coaster, popcorn movie, 80s music, everything's awesome. But then its ending is surprisingly powerful, like incredibly so. You're kind of in awe of, I was at least, of how kind of much the ending hits you. It's and again, I heard people kind of all around the theater, so I thought that's good filmmaking and good acting and writing and all that, where you have, again, basically, it's a talking raccoon movie, and then, somehow the ending still I guess you're connected to the characters enough that the ending still has an emotional punch to it. So I kind of dug that about it. I thought that was, I think the ending went on a little too long, but it's not Lord of the Rings bad. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to say about this one, because honestly, there's not much to pick apart. I gotta say this though. I will say this because I think this is funny. So at the very beginning, we see young Kurt Russell, or Kurt Russell playing his younger self. Only, apparently, from what I understand, the youth look was actually accomplished more with prosthetics than it was with CGI. So you didn't get that weird, Grand Moff Tarkin and or him from Tron Legacy kind of thing going on. So that was good. But the thing is, if it was all prosthetics, it made his head look really freaking big. And he already had like huge 80s hair going on. So he had huge 80s hair and then a huge head on top of it. He looked kind of, that's what threw me off about that. Anyway. But yeah, normally I can rant on for like 20 minutes about these things, but this one, there's not a lot to really say. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's the kind of movie you want setting off your summer blockbuster season, because it's everything you want a summer blockbuster to be. Big thrill ride, great special effects, good acting, good directing, just, tons of fun. So, again, nothing I say, if you're a Marvel fan or you like the first one, nothing I say is going to stop you from going and seeing this one. So, by all means, go check it out. It's a romp. It's a laugh. They got 4 or 5 end credit sequences. That was a bit excessive, I thought, with only one of them actually giving you any kind of lead into another movie. So I thought that was funny. A lot of them were just jokes. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a lot of fun. Yeah, don't really have much more to add to this one. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm looking forward to the summer at the movies. Take my mind off the 7-hour summer class I have to go do. And till next time, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.